I'd like to start the Sewer Commission meeting for August 25th, 5 o'clock. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting of the Sewer Commission is being conducted remotely and is being recorded, and the recordings can be found on Lunenburg Access Channel or on YouTube within 48 hours. My name is Dave McDonald. I'm the chairman of the Sewer Commission. I will do a roll call to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I announce your names, please respond by just saying here. Mike Devakis.
Aye.
John Reynolds, he's going to be coming in. Brett Ramson.
Here.
Kyle Luck.
Here.
Bob.
Here.
Jane, I know you're there. I see you, but you don't need to respond. Also, anticipate the speakers for some work on the agendas. Please respond and state your speakers' names. So from Bright Farms, we have Sheen O'Neill.
Sean O'Neill.
Sean, you there?
Sean, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and we're waiting for Russ. Is he still going to be coming?
I'm anticipating Russ joining us. He knows, he's forgotten more about this issue than I know.
Okay, not a problem, but you guys aren't on until 5:15 anyways. And Woodward and Curran, Dave Mullen?
Not yet.
Anyone from the, okay.
And Jack Brodequins is on too. You skipped over him.
Nope. Hey, Jack. How you doing? Sorry. Your name's in green. It's blotted out. Okay. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 virus, is currently following the guidance of the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In Lunenburg, all town facilities are open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and by appointment outside those hours. In accordance with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order in which can be found posted on the town website or on a COVID-19 for Information Center page, accessed through the town manager's web page following public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along in deliberations of the meetings. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. These meetings will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Sewer Commission is conveying by video conference via the Zoom app. It's posted on the town website identifying how the public may link. So before we start, I'd like to make any announcements. Barbara?
The Q1 billings went out today, so if anybody does not get your bill and that expects a bill in the next week or so, please contact this office or the collectors. The irrigation and deduct meter customers must be upgraded by the homeowners, working with their own plumbers to be able to be read remotely as of 9/1, September 1st, in order to continue to remain in the irrigation program. Also, the $50 fee to remain in the program was due on June 4th. 12 accounts have not paid the fees and have been removed from the program. So that's my announcement.
Okay, and we're going to be talking about that when we get into the body of the meeting anyways.
Right.
Public comment. Any public comment from a board member? Oh, hey, John. I'm sorry. We have John Reynolds on the phone.
Yes, you do.
Can you hear us, John?
I'm sorry?
You can hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any public comment by the commission?
No, sir.
I see none. Any public comment from the public? I see none. Barb, do you see anything on your page?
I do not.
Okay. So let's go right into it. 5 o'clock. It's 5:05. Announcements in the form of public hearing. Barbara, why don't you go over the appointments?
Sure. Just want to announce we're opening up the first of 2 public hearings for the policy update to the irrigation meter policy. Excuse me, in the sewer use regulations, document Article 7.3D2 and Appendix K was posted in the ledger on the 14th to meet the requirements of changing policies and having a public hearing. What we have before the public right now is a couple changes. We had already held public hearings last November, but there were substantial changes. So felt we needed to just do it again to make sure we get it covered. Changing the name to deduct meter policy because it was confusing some people that they thought they had to have an irrigation meter system. So the water department uses that term more often also. So changing the name, changing to just how the payment or the billing and the payment of fees will be handled. We're just trying to make sure we have actions that are regulated basically if we don't receive payments. So after 30 days from the due date, letters are sent out to those that haven't paid. And after 60 days when the fee is due, we would consider it a withdrawal from the program. So that's the policy that was posted on the website and for this hearing. I don't know if any of our numbers that are showing up are here to speak to that or not. I unfortunately, given me long enough for the policy and I can find changes. So I would like to propose a couple more for hearing number 2, just because, what happened to it? There's just, it's mostly clerical. And if you don't mind, I will put it, I think I sent it to the commission. But if you don't mind, I will put it up on the screen to show you what I would like to, just additional changes that I'd like to have go through. So can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. Just updating dates, number 1. The purpose, I realize that we do have one commercial account that has a deduct meter, and we say residents throughout the policy. So I've just changed where it says residents to property owners. One additional, we had town clerk noted in there twice. We corrected it once with the building department. We've removed it again because the plumbing permits are now handled through the building department. Typo, it had the I forget what, preposition, there you go. And because we had an irrigation meter, but I left the and in there and now it just has to be a. Also in discussions with some of the residents, I've just realized that we need to make it clear that the property owner is responsible for the purchase, installation, maintenance, proper operation, and accuracy. We did not have maintenance in there before. Putting in what the original effective date is. I also referred so that we have reference to where people can find where the required equipment is. We're referencing the web page, lunenburgma.gov, and that was it. So nothing greatly policy changing, but just kind of cleaning it up so we can work with it.
Okay. You done?
Anybody have any issues with those proposed changes? If you don't, I'll put that on the website, and that's where people are directed to with the next posting for the next hearing.
No, but thank you, Barb.
Okay.
Before we take a vote on this, can you take this off the screen? Unless everyone saw.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Are there any public comment from the public on meter policy? Please do so by a show of raising your hand. And Barb, I don't have control. Can you see?
No hands. I have no hands.
No
So,
hands.
and literally raise your hand, please.
Okay. Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the additional updates for the meter regs from the board.
I'll make a motion to accept the changes just referenced by Barbara for the deduct meter policy.
Okay, second.
that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? And a roll call. And by the way, tonight we'll be doing a roll call. Mike?
Aye.
And I'm going to go by my screen. So Brett?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Can't hear you, Carl. I'm sorry.
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
For myself. Okay, Barb?
Okay.
Just-
So we will have a second hearing as required by our own regulations. That will be held on September 8th at 5 p.m. And at the conclusion of that hearing, the Sewer Commission will vote to approve the new policy and incorporate it into the sewer use regulations. So we'll continue this hearing at our next meeting on the 8th.
Okay. Is it going in the ledger again, you said this week?
Yes. Yeah.
So how many people signed over or not have signed over? Let's put it that way.
I have 42 remaining. I had 12 withdraw, 12 not pay. So they did not receive irrigation credits on this bill. I had 8 voluntarily withdraw. So I have 42 remaining.
Okay, very good. Okay. Anything else on that one, Barb?
Nope.
Okay, it's 5:10. We're a little early about Bright Farms. Is everyone from Bright Farms here? And that would be Sean, right here. Can you unmute him?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and you anticipating anybody else to come in your meeting?
So it looks like Russ can't join us, but he is. But Nick Long may join us. I should be able to handle the issues that are in front of us. I'm not the civil engineer. I'm the developer. But
good.
you have a map, I think, of where we want to put a sewer line, and I want to explore what we might need to do in order to determine feasibility and things like that.
Do you want to wait now? I mean, we can talk about you're still 5 minutes early, so it's up to you if you want to start it.
Let me just confirm whether Nick is going to join us. Hang on one second. Sorry.
And well, while we're waiting for that, we really don't want to go on to anything else. So, everybody doing good?
Well, you're gonna be able to put that map up on the screen?
I can. Well, I can put on what I have. I don't know if Sean has a more recent.
Okay, maybe he does. I didn't know, because I hadn't seen it.
I have one with a highlighted green, fluorescent green line. I would imagine is emblematical of the proposed sewer line on a map with a black outline of their facility.
Bob, if you want to throw up, yeah, I was going to say you want to throw that one up. Here's the latest map we got, guys.
There it is.
Yep.
Bob, I don't know if you want to cross out the bookmarks that are on the. There you go.
Yep. Oh, yep.
So that's the latest that we got as of commission. And just for reference, if you guys don't know, you got Walmart down there on the left-hand side and Hannaford's over there on the right-hand side with those little stores in the middle. And Jack, did you see this before? Or is this the first time you're seeing this?
The first time I've seen it.
Okay. And it looks like you can see where they want to bring the sewer down.
Yeah, I get what what shows up for me is to the right, to the east of Hannaford. And
Yes.
it looks like it makes a very sharp turn
Yeah.
to the west and gets into the parking lot.
Yeah, I see that.
And I'm intimately aware of what goes on with that sewer from the parking lot on. So I'm good. Thank you.
I did, and I think in my connection, when I provided the fees, I did just kind of warn about easements that it's not, it's got to stay on its own property.
We were clear on that. We learned that we were hoping to sort of have a utility process that would follow the road just for the ease of excavation. But we were very clear from Barb that we needed to stay on our own property, so that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Sean, do you have any updated plans or is this it?
This is it. This is the drawing of where we expect the line to run, and that hasn't changed. We do have a full site plan now, but I don't think it changes this.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for considering coming to Lunenburg, and we just want to give you the commitment. We'll do what we got to do to make it right for you, and let's get going. We're all excited about this project.
Well, thank you for having us.
So let's start this off by a little talk from Sean. Sean, why don't you describe what we're doing here for the commission
Yeah.
and people at home?
So Bright Farms is a leading grower of greenhouse lettuce. And we will be similar to Little Leaf. We use a little bit different technology, but if you've seen Little Leaf's lettuce in the stores, we're like them. What you're seeing is the transition of low wage, low skill California jobs to higher wage, higher skill jobs in greenhouses as California struggles with climate and runoff and all of these other problems they have with growing lettuce, especially E. coli. You guys have probably seen the romaine recalls. That's because of California's soil pathogen problem. So everything that we grow never touches soil, never touches pesticides or herbicides. It's all fresh. We don't even wash it because it never touches anything but air. The greenhouse we're planning is in 2 phases. The first phase is about 270,000 square feet under glass, with about another 40,000 feet in what we call a head house, which is where our offices and packing happen. That's the middle part of the building you see on this drawing. And a second phase might might double that to another 270,000 feet. The second phase only happens if we're very, very successful in Massachusetts and we're growing the way Little Leaf has grown. We're in 4 or 5 other states. Little Leaf is only in Mass. We're in Pennsylvania and Illinois and Ohio, Virginia, and North Carolina. But this will be our biggest greenhouse by far if we do the second phase. So we would go, just in terms of your Blackwater, 60 employees times, I think you guys have a requirement 15 gallons per day as a standard for how you evaluate that. So that's 900 gallons in a phase 1. Maximum ever would be 110, 120 employees if you were to include a phase 2. So that would be our Blackwater impact. We have planned for this site a gray water recycling system. So that means that all the water that we use to wash our machinery, it's almost our exclusive process water is only from washing equipment. The harvester, the board washer, things like that. That would go into a system for cleaning, filtering, and recycling. So we would go down from something like 8,000 or 10,000 gallons a day that would have gone through that system down to about 1,000 in a backwash. So our total impact is going to be pretty low. The Blackwater and the gray water backwash combined in the biggest possible scenario I can imagine might be 4,000 to 5,000 gallons a day. That's like at the very far outside of what our impact might be. What else to tell you? We're trying to have a minimal impact. You guys don't probably care too much about the draw on the aquifer or anything, but we have estimated, we're going to do a rainwater capture here. So we'll actually limit our draw on the aquifer too. So that's kind of what we're planning to do.
Before we go to questions, Bob, can you take this plan off the page for us? Unless anybody has any other questions on it. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Jack, I'd like to ask your opinion before we go to the commission. What do you think of the project in a whole and any concerns you have?
I think the commission should do whatever they can do to back this project. I think there's no better project for the town in that location or any location that would have a lesser impact on town services, yet pay the town taxes. I know this is a process, and I know it takes us a while to get through with it, but I think the sewer commission should be the point people, or at least give a strong recommendation towards these folks doing what they propose to do. It'd just be great for Lunenburg.
You still there, Jack?
Yeah.
Okay, looks like you froze. I couldn't agree with you more. What I'd like to do is bring around the horn to the commission, but before I do that, Sean, I just want to say, we're trying to make it easy for you, and I know you and Bob have been doing correspondence for the last week. And that's what we're going to talk about. I'm excited about having you go, but I also want to try to streamline this for you as well.
Love it. No, you guys have been great, and we got a lot of support last night. We had our first meeting with the planning board, and everybody's acting in a way to facilitate. So I'm very grateful for that. I know it's a big project, right? It's a lot of square feet, so I'm very grateful for the help.
Yep, Dave froze. He says thank you.
Barb, why don't you or somebody, do any of the members have comments or questions? Carl? Can you hear me, Carl?
Oh, yes.
Well, I don't mean to step in for Dave, but I thought in order to keep it going, we
okay.
make the loop here, you know?
So it was Dave that froze. I thought it was Sean that froze. I lost track. Yeah, great. I appreciate keeping it moving, Jack. Yeah, my questions are on the sewer. Yeah, it's a great project, but what is the construction of the sewer? And it sounds like it's going to stay on the property. I couldn't see the plan that well. Was the green line, was that the sewer? Or
It was the green line, yeah.
The green line, okay.
And Nick Long has joined us,
is
by the
that-
way, from our civil engineering team, and he might be able to answer more things about pipe size and other intentions about the connection.
Beautiful. Maybe he could just walk us through the construction of the sewer and the how it connects to the town and where it connects to the town. That would be great.
Unmute yourself, Nick.
I'm getting there. I had to pull my laptop out of my bag quick to make the meeting last minute. Yeah, that plan we were looking at was actually a plan we had done last week to get in preparation for this meeting. We were trying to make the last meeting and we didn't make it. So the new plan, which we just submitted yesterday, shows a little differently the line, but our intentions are to connect right now, I think a 10-inch PVC line down to, there's a 10-inch stub coming off of Mass Avenue, and that is our plan, is to connect to that existing stub, which we obtained from an as-built of the sewer. And then possibly, I guess if required, to provide, the overall site is going to be, we're looking at subdividing into 3 lots, and if we would need to provide that service to those other lots too, which is kind of still in the planning process. But yeah, that's kind of the intention, is to run that line from that 10-inch stub coming off of Massachusetts Avenue along our proposed access drive, and then tie in, I guess, a lateral from our greenhouses.
So Nick, the stub is just west of Mass Ave Motors, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, according to the as-built that we received, yes.
Right.
It looks like it's off the road. It's outside of it looks like a connection point would be off of the cartway from the as-built.
Sure, those should be, it should break the plane of the property line.
Okay.
After the state right of way, it should be right there, or close proximity to.
Okay.
So does the new site plan have that reworked?
Yes, it does.
So if you could send me an electronic file, just that page, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, I can send you that. Yeah, I'll send you that. We were in a rush to get the plans in for Monday. I'll send you what we submitted, and then there's going to probably be some revisions, and maybe if we can have some feedback, we can also adjust the sewer connection too. But yes, I'll send you those over here today or tomorrow.
Okay.
A quick question. So you guys probably know Steve Powell, and he's been very good to us. We're buying the property from Steve. He would like to retain a lot. So we're buying basically the front, a little piece of where we come up from Mass Ave, so we can run that line, and then the section where the roadway runs. But we're going to leave a lot for him in our A&R that is to the east of the used car lot. And would we be? I don't want to adopt his problems, but I also want to be a good neighbor and a good partner because he's been fantastic to us. Would we be able to allow for sewer service for him off of our line in that lot, or would he need to come from Mass Ave 2 when he develops that lot?
Every line has to stay contiguous with the parcel. So
Okay.
he would have to have his own.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
Is Dave coming? Nope. Nope, he's gone again. So if we keep going around, Mike, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. Not at the moment.
Okay, Brett? Take yourself off mute.
I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry about that.
All right.
My question was, I see a wiggly black line to the east of the car lot. Is that the lot you're talking about for a steep pile? Sean?
I'm not looking at that map just now, but Nick, are you? I'll open it.
It's not that big a deal.
Um,
My other question for you, Sean, would be, assuming everything goes well, when would you be looking to start construction?
Well, that's probably our most ambitious proposal of the whole thing, is less the project and the speed. We're moving pretty quickly. We have site plan review scheduled for September 14th with the planning board.
Wow.
We have Conservation Commission scheduled for the week after. We're hoping to have our NPDES, kind of in and filed and approved, a couple weeks after that. We could be moving dirt around as early as November 1.
Excellent.
All right.
Hey, Barb, can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're just going around and having all the commissioners ask questions.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. John Reynolds, you would be next if you have any questions.
Well, I missed a lot of discussion because I got forced off, but no, I think this is pretty self-explanatory, and I'm pretty excited about the project, and I hope it can move as quickly as you're hoping. I really do.
From your lips to God's ears.
So I guess one of the questions I have is, how can we expedite this to get it through? Can we use the same peer review as, who's doing the peer review for the town?
Graves.
So, I mean, could we get their results as well to kill two birds with one stone?
We'd love that.
Yeah, Dave, we want to use them for our, that's our history here. Use them for our peer review as well. So it doesn't have to go to a
So
second.
we do them both? Okay, great. Does everybody agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. We've used Graves in the past, so it'd be a great way to save some time.
He's very good. He's very thorough.
And I just want to apologize. I'm having some real bad problems here with connecting tonight, so you may lose me again.
All right.
That's
Zoom world.
that's a ditto here.
I'm in Charlemont, Mass. I'm supposed to be the one with internet problems. You guys live in the.
I'm right down the street. Okay,
Mr. Chairman?
Bob, go ahead, Carl.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I just,
Carl, you got.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, the line is going to come down. It sounds like that's pretty straightforward to connect to that T. But the access is going to be over through, is going to be what was shown on that original map, right? It's going to take a right and go over through the Walmart.
The road access will be off the service road, correct? We
Yeah.
have an easement for that, and I think DOT would far prefer that, where there's a light and everything, than having us come onto Mass Ave.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I asked, because I know the prior developer or would want to be a developer ran into trouble with that. So that's good to hear. The only other thing on the peer review, yeah, that's normal for them to cover for us. I think we have to just make it clear and request that through the planning board that he address all of the sewer issues as well.
Yep, I will contact Adam tomorrow.
Great, thank you. That's good. Great. Good luck.
And the question I got for you is, what else do you need from us?
That might be more of a Nick and engineering question than it is for me. I think we know enough about the lines based on the drawings we've been given and the sizing. Is there a specialized requirement to be able to install this? Are there firms that always do this for you? I mean, we have to do it privately, I know, but in terms of who can do it and permits required to tap into that line?
Our requirements, of course, residentially at a smaller scale, only are guided by insurance, proper insurance, and a certificate or a license through the town. We review to make sure they have their insurance, and you know, that's all there is. It's minimal. It's minimal.
Most of the bigger contractors around here would be able to get that done for you.
Great.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Carl,
Yes, Mr. Luck?
Yeah, just one other thing just occurred to me because you mentioned 3 lots, and you mentioned that Powell was going to keep one that's kind of between you and the used car. Is there another lot, or did I misunderstand the 3 lots?
No, you got it. So a little bit more. The squiggly line that you mentioned before is not exactly the full lot that's being retained by Powell. Basically, if you look at everything east of the new driveway, will kind of be a lot. So it'll be a fairly large lot there between, I don't know, is it Pope Road or no, Case, I think it's called, where the water line goes up to the water tower. In between that,
Pope Road.
Yeah. That and our driveway, that's all going to be a lot. The third lot will be basically the section to the west, north of Walmart, and that'll probably be the biggest single parcel of land left. And it will not. I don't know of any plans for that. If you were to walk over there, the land falls off pretty steeply. There's a creek down there. It's pretty hard for me to imagine that being used for, I mean, I don't mean to predict its future, but it doesn't look like it's developable to me. And so that's going to be sort of an isolated kind of forested lot, I think.
So the reason I'm asking is, I think I read somewhere that the water usage that you mentioned, or the wastewater that you're going to put in the system, seemed pretty low. But I thought I saw something about if there's an RO system that it would be much higher. Can you elaborate on that?
I will. My guess at this point, based on the water testing I've seen, is that we won't have an RO system. But so when we get town water, sometimes it has levels of minerals or particularly chlorine that we can't take because we're feeding everything to the plants, and of course chlorine is not good for our plants. Your chlorine levels in your water, if we end up using town water, which is a possibility, are pretty low. And I think we can get away without an RO system if we were to build. But if we did do RO, what happens? You guys will appreciate this because you probably buy maple syrup locally like I do. The maple syrup guys use RO too on their syrup, and it cuts down on the amount of time they have to cook the syrup. But our local guy in Heath, Massachusetts, our award-winning guy, says it kicks out a lot of the minerals and the taste. So he won't do it. For us, what it does is it kicks out a lot of the minerals in the water, and you end up with a 25 or 30% reject water. So our levels of water use go way up. And so at this point, so you would see that, although we'd probably end up using it for wash water or recycling or something. At this point, I feel pretty confident in saying that we're not going to have an RO here. And so those levels I quoted before will probably be the ones. I can't promise it at this point, but I'd say the odds are very high we'll have those low levels I mentioned.
So the reason it occurred to me to pursue this a little bit is there is a water allocation for that lot. And I'm wondering how you're going to handle that with the dividing it up. Are you dividing up the allocation, or how's that working?
My understanding, it was mentioned to me that agreement may have burned off. I don't know if it's still valid. If it hasn't, I guess I'd defer to you on how to divide it up. I don't know how you guys would normally handle that. I know there was an agreement. I think it was 29,000 gallons a day or something.
About that, yeah, on that order, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
If that's still valid, we would just for security's sake want to hang on to as much of the allocation as we could get. I don't think we'll need it, but we'd be crazy to give it up. On the other hand, we want to be good neighbors and make sure that the system's allocated properly. So I'd kind of defer to you.
Yeah, it's something that maybe depending on where you go, right now there's a single allocation. It's a single lot. I think it's probably up to you and your lawyers or our lawyers how that would get reallocated, if at all. I mean, I don't know that there's any absolute need to reallocate. I'm just talking off the top of my head now. We probably need to get counsel, but basically the allocation is the amount of water that that you can put into the system without paying any additional fees. I think even if you might want to look, even if you kept the entire allocation, I suspect all that means is that whoever needs to put water into our system would then have to, pay the fees associated with that usage or that capacity. So it's something you might just want to look into before the ink dries on all the paperwork to make sure it's addressed.
One way to do it, and I always assumed the allocation also had to do with what your capacity was. One way to do it might be to say, hey, when you're built, we'll figure out about what you're running, and maybe we'll add a little safety factor and take back what you're not using. That way you have it to allocate elsewhere. Is that a way you could do it?
I don't know if that would make sense, because you were, I guess your company, whoever bought it paid for that allocation. I don't think we want to buy it. Yeah. I don't know that the commission would want to buy it back.
I see. It has value. Okay. Oh, because this is the burden.
It has value. Yes.
The burdening of the property. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then
There's no
Steve and I
guarantee.
will almost certainly negotiate that, and I'm sure he'll want to keep a piece for the other parcel, which is fine.
I'm sure, and that's why I bring it up, just so you cover that, because there's no guarantee that there would be more allocation. Because
no, that's extremely helpful, because I don't want to hamper him in his other efforts.
Good.
Dave, is there any need for a motion here, or?
Dave is still trying to get back to the meeting, so. I will ask if we need a motion. I don't know if we do at this point. John, you're vice chair. Did John just leave us too?
Yeah,
All right.
They both are having some issues here.
Yeah. Oh, Dave McDonald might be back. Might.
Don't you love technology? We just lost Sean's video as well.
Oh, wow. Oh yeah. Well, he might have turned it off.
I'm here. I'm just preserving bandwidth.
There you go.
All
All right.
Everyone's moving. Great. Okay. Where are we? Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Is there, we seem to all be pretty much on board here, Dave. Is there a need for a motion of any kind?
No.
Okay.
The only thing I want to do is make sure Sean has all the information he needs and have us available in case they need him to get this through on the schedule. I'd really like to see them make the schedule. So whatever Sean needs, Robert, just please assist him, and Jack, Sean, just so you know, Jack's very good at what he does. He knows how to get it through. So I just wish you guys the best. But any questions, now's the time to ask the commission. The only thing I like to ask around the table is anybody object to this project? And let's just start with Mike. If you have any questions, now's the time.
No questions, no objection.
Okay.
Proposal.
Okay, Brett.
I'm completely on board. I'm excited to see this this coming to light. I was unaware of the entire scope of it. I like it. I'd like to see it happen. Anything we can do to assist, I'm on board.
Plus, I know your wife likes lettuce, so that's good. Carl, any questions?
She does.
No, I asked them all. I think it's good. I hope we can move it forward, and I look forward to trying the lettuce.
Okay, and I think we lost.
Same here.
I think we lost John. Bob, do you see John anywhere?
Nope, he's missing.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Let's get it
Thank you all.
built.
Really appreciate your support. Look forward to working with you. Right now, I can't think what you've just suggested by consolidating the review. That's probably the most important next step. So I'm very grateful for that.
Let us know, or let Jack and Bob know what we can do to assist you to get through that too. So good luck to you, and thank you for coming to Lunenburg.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right,
All right then.
so next up is Woodard and Curran. Sorry for the delay.
That's
Yep,
okay.
sorry for the delay. Hold on.
I can share my video. Well,
Video? You got a video?
yeah, got video. Got a lot of photography stuff in the background. Hopefully it's not distracting.
Okay, so the next presentation is Woodward and Curran. And Carl, I'll let you take it away with these guys. You know them, so go ahead, Carl.
Well, I would just introduce Lauren. I think Pete is on the phone and is on the line as well to support this. We reviewed the questions that we had from the prior meeting. I had a couple of productive phone call. They've updated the draft. So we have a second draft that was just distributed. And what I suggested, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, is that Lauren basically walk us through the most important points of the document itself, but focusing on changes, since the commission's had the original one for a while. What's changed as a result of our questions, and then primary focus being on the recommendations, so we can fully understand what they're recommending.
Just a couple of points to clear up, Carl. Are we talking about this tonight? Just this?
What's that?
It's the 2 pages we got in our packet for the draft report committee review discussion.
Yeah, that was my call that was provided to Woodward and Curran. We had a call so we just could go over what the comments were based on so that they fully understood them. They came back with a proposed change document, and they've now provided that Barb has just distributed. So
Right.
It's a new draft.
I guess what I'm saying is, are we talking about this tonight, and there's going to be a final presentation, or?
This is would be the contractually required meeting with the commission to discuss the draft report, and then as a result of this discussion tonight, if there's any changes, Woodward and Curran would incorporate the changes we discussed tonight if necessary, and then finalize the report, and that would be the end of the contract.
Okay, so one more question I have is, it's broken down by comments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see how that's set up? You see how the sheet is set up you got in your package?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's our guideline, Lauren. Is that what we're doing? So
Yeah.
I'm going to request all the members to ask questions at the end of each comment. So each comment section. So comment 1, go through it. And if I could ask the sewer commissioners to write their questions down, we'll go back to it. Is that okay? So, okay. Any questions from the committee?
No, sir.
Lauren, you're on. Comments 1.
Great. And I would also request, if you have the report available, just a PDF of that open on your screen, just so that we can refer to our response to the comments. It'll just be easier to follow if everyone has that.
Bob, I'm not the host. Bob, do you have it?
I'm going to bring it up. I'm sorry, I thought I had it.
Do you want to give that to Lauren? You want to give her control? Lauren, would you like to do
Oh,
that?
yeah, that will work. If we can make that happen. Yeah.
Is that, you're talking make host, allow, doesn't have any, allow host?
Yep.
Make host? Okay. There you go.
Okay. So then if I share, looks like I can share the report then. Okay.
Here it comes.
Does everybody see the report?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for having us. I do want to make note that Pete Jarandasevitz, Scott Medeiros, and Kelly Messer are all on the call as well. So they'll be able to chime in to help. Kelly and Pete are our technical gurus on this. And then Scott has a lot of good background on the pump station discussion and SCADA that we'll get into. So to kick it off for comment one, there was a lot of discussion on the II that was quantified in 2011 and how that compares to today. So our focus was to make sure the information that was included in the 2011 report was transcribed in this report for ease of review. And that was added to table 2-1, so I might be skipping around a little bit, so I hope you don't get too dizzy. But we updated section, previous report, section 2, quite a bit. So we're able to give a summary of what the existing II, what was noted in the 2011 study.
Lauren,
So,
could you blow that up to 100%?
oh, sure, yeah. Let's see.
Is that better for you guys? Try 100% maybe.
Yeah, because it's 125 is a little. Is that better for review?
Commissioners, is that better? Better for me.
Okay.
Sure.
See it very well. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll get back to that table. So again, this table just presents the 2011 II in gallons per day per inch diameter mile. So presented here based on the metered sub area. For context, we included more information on what is inch diameter mile and how do the Mass DEP guidelines define, what excessive infiltration is. So we included a bit of wording here. The value that DEP bases their excessive infiltration on is 4,000 gallons per day per inch mile. And then we include the calc and a little more write-up on this, just to provide clarity on how that number is quantified. So again, that brings you to here. Yep.
Just wanted to also clarify.
If I could.
Oh.
Lauren, if I could.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for the commission here, because it wasn't until our call that I was real clear on. We keep using the term I&I.
All right. But
correct me if I'm wrong here, if I don't have it right. This table really only refers to infiltration and not inflow. So it's really not I&I, it's just the infiltration piece of I&I. And that's the state guideline only refers to the infiltration piece of I&I, not the inflow piece. And my understanding is the guideline is strictly infiltration, and there is no state guideline for inflow. Okay. And just again for the commission sake, it was sort of a dawn on Marblehead moment when I got that, because we never did understand why we had poor I&I, because we had all pretty new system relatively. And on the inflow part and infiltration part, that makes a lot of sense, and that seemed to have proven to be true. We don't have a big infiltration problem. We'll talk later about where our problem is, I guess, which is not infiltration.
Right. Yeah. And Kelly, actually, did you want to clarify that, or was there
I just want to jump in real quick. Can you hear me okay? Okay, if you could, yeah, could you scroll back up actually?
Sure.
So this description actually includes infiltration and inflow. So the Mass DP guidelines define calculations and quantifying infiltration as well as inflow. So that first larger paragraph with that small equation, that's discussing infiltration, and that's where we have that 4,000 gallons per day per inch diameter mile, which is a specific threshold for infiltration. But in the next like larger paragraph, starting with conversely, that's actually a discussion on inflow as well, because they are quantified separately and independently of each other. So with inflow, you're not taking that 4,000 gallons per day per inch diameter mile threshold, you're actually taking the top 80% of inflow identified. So that's where you're going to see some numbers that may not line up when you're comparing inflow versus infiltration. So under the Mass DP guidelines, there are calculations and explanations for infiltration as well as inflow. So Mass DP guidelines isn't just for infiltration, it's for both. So under a metering program, which was conducted in the spring of 2011, that actually did provide infiltration and inflow results. And the next report that was complete in the fall was specifically targeting inflow. So just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Kelly. Yep, so that, yeah, all of that discussion is new and added. And then again, the infiltration being added in this table. And so the last piece of that comment was making sure we're taking quarterly billing and looking at that against metering data and being able to glean any trends that were found. So this, yeah, I'll scoot down. We're skipping, yeah, comment 2 will bring us back to section 2 in a little bit. But I did want to take a chance to go through the data analysis and the additional graphs that were added here and findings. So Kelly, I was actually going to kick it over to you if you'd be able to kind of just walk us through the additional tables that were added
Yes, yep.
as part of identifying trends. So I'm going to go down
Right.
to...
Actually, if you could pause on that figure too,
Yeah.
as we're going through it. This was, I don't think this item was part of a specific comment breakdown, but this is just an additional figure for you guys to see the pump station sub areas, because in previous reports, they're broken up in the flow metering sub areas, which were larger. So we just broke these out for you guys to kind of get a feel of the linear footage per basin and what we're kind of looking at for each one. So just wanted to touch on that for you guys. And so the graphs are actually, if you keep going, so there's a couple, so these are actually, Lauren, if you keep going,
Yep.
that would be great. Sorry, I know there's a
Oh, no,
lot of stuff in
sorry.
here. Okay, so we first started out with, so this is the flow meter data section. This is a new section that was added into the report, and virtually all of these graphs you're seeing were pulled from the flow assessment online portal, which we were granted access to earlier in the year. So this first figure that you're seeing is actually taking the meter flows from 2019 between March and the end of May from the active online portal and comparing it to the flows that were noted in the original 2011 metering report. And this was done for each of the 3 permanent meters. So figure 3.6 and 3.7 are similar. And this essentially was a QA/QC kind of data check for us to see if there are any extreme flow differences between 2011 and present day. So are we seeing massive changes over the last 9 years or so? And if there were, then that would be somewhat of a concern. But you can see figure 3-7 is a really good example. Although they aren't perfectly in line, they follow the same sort of trend line, pretty even through March, and then we see some spikes in April, and then kind of calming back down. And that's an indicator that you have an inflow issue. So to determine if you have an inflow or infiltration problem using these graphs, generally if you're seeing a distinct spike, like you can on 414 as well as 428, that's an indicator that you have an inflow issue. So that's either from holes in manhole covers, catch basin laterals that were accidentally connected to the sewer system, or you have a sump pump problem in residential areas. So there's various problems that could indicate that. So when you have a rainstorm, all of that runoff, additional flow is getting into the system. So that's when you're going to see those spikes. So that's kind of an indicator of inflow. So, and I'll get into that a little bit more actually, Lauren, if you could scroll down. So then we got into somewhat more of a specified graph. So now we're breaking it down. We have the rainfall, the NOAA rainfall pulled in, and then we have wastewater, daily wastewater flows, again, pulled from the flow assessment online portal, which is that blue line, and that's daily total flows in million gallons. And what you can see is that we do have, again, that general spike in flow in April and May. So that, again, kind of proves our point that you are experiencing inflow issues. So this is almost to hone it back in and prioritize a specific quarter where you have a mix of the rainy season, as well as drying out into the summer months of July. So that's what these more condensed graphs are showing. And same thing for these two. And actually this figure 310's a really great example. We have a really defined spike in April, and you can kind of see, so there's that red dotted line is actually a linear trend line that's tracking the wastewater flow from beginning, so February 1st to the end of July. And when you have a downward slope in a linear trend, that's indicating that during the wet season, months of when you're starting to have snow melt and it's the rainy season around March and April, you have higher consistent flows. So you're not seeing one specific spike, you're just seeing a consistent flow pattern, but a little bit higher in volume. And then as you get towards the drier months, that line starts to dip down a bit. And that's an indicator that you have infiltration issues, because when you have a high groundwater table in the spring months, that's when you're constantly having higher extraneous flows getting into the system, not necessarily one specific rain event. And then in the drier months, the groundwater table will drop, and then you no longer have that excess flow getting into the system. So those are the two components that we use to evaluate those general II trends for specific sub areas that I will actually get to. So there's a decent amount of background information that we needed to do to kind of line up where those sub area issues were. And then the last graphs, these are just general annual wastewater flow totals. So you'll see that we did it on an annual basis for the year of 2017. And as opposed to using 2019, 2017 was more ideal, because when we get into the pump station analysis, there are specific quarters in 2017 that presented the most valuable data to us. So whether it was consistency, and we didn't have blank week for pump station daily logs, that all kind of focused in 2017. So that's why we wanted to do an annual chart, just to see what the general trends were. And as you can see, there's in figure 312, there's a generous spike in April as well as in October. So again, that could be an indicator of inflow problems, having that system react to having all that extraneous flow from runoff getting into the system. And this might be kind of covering a few comments at once, but so that was essentially the meter flow setup that we use from the flow assessment online portal, which is actively tracking daily, which was really useful for us. And then that brought us into the pump station evaluation. So Lauren, if you could keep scrolling, actually, if you could stop on that figure.
Okay, yep.
So Carl, I think this was kind of one of your questions, to kind of show where we were seeing trends versus what had been shown in previous reports. So anything highlighted in blue is what we noticed to have general II trends in the system. And this has slightly changed since our interim meeting. We did notice a couple more trends that were worth noting. So there's not a lot of overlap. You can see there's a little bit in the Dana Street pump station sub area. because anything that's outlined in purple was what was recommended for further investigation during the 2011 Weston and Sampson reports. So that's just kind of a reference figure for you to kind of understand where we were seeing trends versus what had been recommended in the past.
So this is great. Just to again, make sure I understand, and for the rest of the commission, because they were part of the other. The sort of question was, of the areas, is there, because when the original 2011 survey was done, roughly half of our system was identified for additional work, and we focused on only those areas to do the house testing and the smoke testing and those things. Woodward and Curran, through an independent way, identified what areas they believed we should be looking at. And the intent of this graph was to see if there's overlap, if the areas that we already looked at need more looking, or if all of the areas that Woodward and Curran suggest us looking are new areas, which would be interesting. So I'm going to take a shot at what this graph is. So I think you said that what's in purple, what's outlined in purple, was part of the post 2011 investigations that we did with the house testing. Is that correct?
Yep, so that was what was recommended for further inflow investigations from 2011, because the town wasn't showing signs of extreme infiltration. So those future recommendations were solely based on inflow. So yep, that was what was recommended by Weston and Sampson. That's outlined in purple.
And so the purple, so there's some overlap in the sort of Danish one there.
Correct.
That's pretty much it. The section between the Dana and the upper left there, that blue, was not looked at before, so that's a new area, as well as the upper right area is new.
Correct, the Mass Ave pump station areas.
Okay.
Yep, and
Great.
And we'll actually get into this a little bit more. We have some more charts to show you guys on what we're kind of seeing, and most of these are showing signs of potential infiltration and inflow issues, not on an extreme scale, but it's just some of those, again, general trends that we're noticing with the data that we had. So that figure kind of transitions into these general charts. So these graphs are for all of the pump stations between April of 2017 and the end of July of 2017. And we had to choose these specific dates based off of the populated data that we had. So these were the months where we had consistent pump station weekly logs for all of the pump stations. So the first three figures are essentially to just show you the general flow for all of the pump stations. And one of the questions was, where is the Leominster data? And that actually didn't graph properly in our interim meeting. So figure 3, figure 3-17, sorry, Lauren, if you could scroll. So Leominster Road actually had its own graph because all of the flows were significantly negative. And that's something that we had touched upon with you guys during that interim presentation, where we're seeing some discrepancies in the pump station flows, and we'll get into that a little bit more in our recommendations. But I just wanted to note and point out to you guys that Leominster Road, if you look at the gallons pumped on the left-hand side, those are all generally negative, because these are the net flows that we took within the areas tributary to each pump station. So just to note that. So then with this data, we wanted to see what kind of trends are we seeing? Are we seeing large spikes in flow over the course of time? And this is actually a pretty good cross section, because we have April and into May, which is technically the wet season or rainy season. And then it kind of gradually gets into the drier season in the summer months of July. So the first area that we noticed having some spikes was Mass Ave 1. So this is plotting the rainfall, which are the yellow green bars, and then the wastewater flow is in blue. So as you can see, that we're seeing some delayed reactions, which still could be inflow in the system. You can see two specific increases in flow around 513 as well as 617, and those spikes occur right after 2 significant rain events. So we have those 2 bars. So that's an indicator to us that there's an inflow problem. And you can see that we plotted the linear trend line, and we're also seeing a downward slope, which is also an indicator that there could be an infiltration problem as well. And again, these are just general trends, so it's hard for us. We can't quantify, is inflow worse than infiltration? These are just kind of what we're seeing with the data that we have. So the next one, same kind of situation. So Mass Ave 2 and 3 kind of coincide with each other. They actually mimic the same flow pattern, which is an indicator to us that in combination with a potential II issue, there could be something that may be going on with the pump stations itself. So we can see small bumps in the flow, as well as somewhat of a downward slope for Mass Ave 2 and Mass Ave 3. So again, we're seeing infiltration as well as inflow. And then if you scroll down, yep, so then Twin Cities is actually a great example for you guys. We have the really distinct spikes in flow. And again, that's attributed to inflow when you see those distinct spikes, as well as a very severe drop in flow going from the spring months to summer, which is another pretty clear indicator to us that the high groundwater table is affecting the extraneous flows getting into the system. So pretty consistent so far. What we're seeing is inflow as well as infiltration as a potential issue for these sub areas. Lauren, if you could keep scrolling. And then the last one.
1 second. If we could go back to, it didn't, another one, the one that was pretty flat. Yeah, I'm not, that one, I really don't see much correlation to the rainfall though. I see the downward slope and infiltration, but I'm not seeing any correlation to rainfall. And so what?
Lauren, if you scroll up a little bit to Mass Ave 2. So Mass Ave 2 has more distinct spikes. And again, this could be delayed inflow, right? So that's kind of, it was tough since they're split on different pages. So we included both of these because if you notice, you have that curved raise and flow and then a sharp spike. And then Lauren, if you go down to 3, it's not as distinct, but you're still seeing that curved flow with a spike. So Mass Ave 2 definitely is a stronger candidate for II issues, but we are seeing some sort of correlation, at least in the flow pattern. So that's why we included it in the report.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And yep, so then Lauren, if you go back down to Dana Street. So I know previous work has been done in the Dana Street area, but we were also seeing, this is kind of similar to 2 and 3. We're seeing a curved reaction and then a sharper spike, as well as a downward slope. But with Dana Street, it wasn't as significant. I think what we really wanted to prioritize in this area is the steeper downward slope that we noticed with the overall wastewater flow. So generally pretty high at 1.2 million to 1.3 million, and then it actually drops to only 900,000 once you get into July. So that's a pretty significant drop over the course of a couple months, and then consistently lowering through the month of July. So that's a stronger indicator to us that Dana Street could still potentially have infiltration problems as opposed to inflow. So Dana Street was the only sub area where we're noticing trends, but really it could be more prioritized towards infiltration, and that reflects in our recommendations section.
And just to clarify, when we say Dana Street, it's just that sub area. It's subtracting out everything south of Buncer Road. Is that correct? This isn't the total flow of Dana.
Yep, so these are all net flows. Yep. So subtracting out any of the upstream sub areas. Yep. So that was the general trends that we noticed. So Lauren, I don't know if we want to go back to the...
Yeah, maybe
document.
we can pause for a second because I know the reason why we went through it that way. So thank you for being able to bear with us. As we're looking, the big question I noticed was what is what is the current II? So what we wanted to provide you, since we can't quantify II based on the data, but what we can do is we can evaluate the trends. We can look at all the past studies and compare. So that's what that addition of graphs and figures there is really painting the picture of where are the issues, where should you focus your attention. So that covers comment 1, and then I think again comment 3 also touches upon that. So if you want, we can pause before we go into comment 2, which is back to the Inflow report for Wright Pierce. If you wanted to take questions now, Dave, or how do you want us to move
Members,
forward?
do you guys have any questions for comment 1 and comment 3 at this point on the email that we got today? Any questions? Mike?
I kind of got one question on this one, Dave, is that, you're showing the pump flow. What do you think that's causing the negative pump flow on that? Is that a bad reading? Is there a bad check valve in the system? What do you think would be the cause of the negative flow?
So there's a few potential options or reasons why we're seeing these negative net flows. So Lauren, if you actually scroll down to the, actually all the way to the bottom.
Section 4?
Yeah, it's either section 4 or section 5.
Okay.
Yep, so pump station
Oh, where did it go?
evaluation.
Sorry,
That's okay.
this one here.
Yes, so what, there could be a few potential issues, and it's hard to pinpoint when we don't really know what's going on at each of the pump stations, at least from our end and our perspective, but there could be some potential inefficiencies in the operation and maintenance of these pump stations. So that could be what is causing the negative net flows. So you mentioned check valves, so we could have some leaky check valves. Pete has a little bit more knowledge on this regarding inconsistent bursts of flow, so that could kind of skew those weekly pump station logs that we're getting. So that's where we could have some overlap and causing those negative flows. And that kind of corresponds to just inconsistent data outputs, or we could also just have inefficient impellers or ragging. If that's a known issue in the past, that could still be continuing to be an issue. So there's various sources of error that could be happening.
So are you guys, to checking the flow, are you guys actually using flow meters, or are you using kind of like run times on the pumps versus seeing for inflow versus what the usage is in that area?
Yeah, so the only permanent meters you guys have are the 3, so the 2 going to Fitchburg and the 1 going to Leominster. So with the pump station evaluation, we actually took those weekly pump station logs and utilized the runtime based off of the pumping rates provided in the 2017 drawdown report that was completed by Weston and Sampson. So that could even be another question, is are those pump rates accurate? Because those are the values that we use to calculate those flows on a weekly basis.
Because I mean, there could be some discrepancies in that between age of pump, age of the pumps. I mean, if they're grinder type pumps, there could have been something got in there that could have damaged the pump. The veins could be bad. Again, check valves could be not opening, could be stuck closed, could be stuck open. It just seems to be a lot of kind of, if you do the math, you're kind of relying on things being in, say, an 85 to 100% condition, knowing how old this stuff is and how the calculation would actually work out to a true number.
Right, exactly. That's kind of what we...
Kelly, can I just jump in for a quick second?
Oh, go for it, yeah.
This is Scott Medeiros. We identified that the last time we spoke with your group, and there are a lot of variables. So I agree with you. That's really the issue, is there are too many variables. There's the volume of the wet well, but also the operational efficiency, the maintenance program on the pumps, the impellers. We don't know with the VFDs, we don't know what the speed. So you're assuming it's pumping at a rate, and that's probably wildly inaccurate at this point.
Okay. All right.
But there was a reflection in the previous reports. If you look at the data, it was I believe we took a look at the Weston and Sampson report, the previous reports, and it was negative then. So I believe the last report, it was if you did the math, it was negative then as well, and there was an indication of that. So it's not something that hasn't been in reports. I just don't think anybody's really looked at it as an issue up to this point.
Yeah, I agree to that, Scott. This is Pete Jandersevitz. Yeah, when you look back at the 2011 report, Weston and Sampson indicated the same errors, showed the same negative flows. So I don't know, has anything been done? Has anything been looked at the pump stations?
Right.
I mean, those are the things you guys are going to have to start thinking about looking at. And as we'll get through the rest of the report, you'll see that as probably one of our recommendations.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, let's continue, Laura.
All right, great. So we'll go back up to address comment 2, which focused on the Wright Pierce Inflow report and manhole investigation. All right, so this is a new section we added, provided a summary of the Wright Pierce evaluation that took place, which essentially they followed the NASCO standards for manhole assessment. They inspected a total of 392 manholes during this in March to April 2016. So as part of this, we took the information and again put it in here to provide a clear picture of what has been identified, what would be the cost to rehab it based on that report, what would be the cost to continue to treat, and you know, by making these repairs, what is the predicted remaining II. So I do want to note here, we received spreadsheets and tables, and we did have some correspondence with Jack and Carl on what's been completed. So we took our, you know, based on these tables, we took our assumption of the immediate attention areas, assuming that those were addressed. But I do want to note, I would say take a look at that table provided by Wright Pierce, and we did append it to this report as well, and make sure that those priority areas were addressed, that the immediate attention manhole rehab. So it was listed out exactly what the rehab was and what that cost would be. So just want to make note of that. But we did look at then, you know, still priority 1 area and 2, if those areas were not addressed yet, you potentially are paying quite a bit to continue to treat that II that is getting into the manholes, into the system. So,
Lauren, can I jump in real quick?
Lauren here, I'm sorry. The infiltration of water that you're thinking in the manholes, is that just how it's like gaskets usually on the bottom of how that's stacked up? Where the pipes come in, you're thinking like the gaskets could be worn out, so groundwater is running into that system and then running down the pipes. Is that what your cost of repair is?
Was that for, you're asking about the manhole rehabilitation?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep, so that can happen in a few different ways, infiltration getting in. So, and this Wright Pierce report actually includes potential inflow as well as infiltration, because if you have holes in the cover of a manhole, all of that runoff from a rain event is getting in. But specifically with infiltration, you could see that if you have a brick manhole and the mortar starts to wear away, so the groundwater table, if it's high enough, it'll start infiltrating, or if the incoming or outgoing pipe isn't sealed off, that could be another source of infiltration. It essentially just finds any nook or cranny that it can to get into the system. So if you're seeing cracks or missing mortar or something like that, that's where it could get in. But if you also have a precast manhole, you could get some staining at the seams, and that's another source of infiltration. So that's when you just want to parge the seams. So there's various manhole rehabilitation options, and those are actually all listed out in that Wright Pierce table that we appended to the report, if there's anything you wanted to reference.
I have one more comment to Kelly's. The other spots was what they known as the chimney, which is the layers of bricks that literally sit underneath the frame and cover.
Yep.
If you do not have proper asphalt around it or a concrete collar put around that, sometimes water do seep in through between the frame and the asphalt. So that can be another source if there's any ponding of any sort. But yeah, that's another way of them coming in. I do see it sometimes when, if you had a precast and you had those Fernco boots with the PVC fittings,
Yes.
sometimes these contractors don't always tighten them down, the bands with the nut rod driver. So you do get some signs of infiltration in there. So it all varies on where it comes in.
So when you guys inspected these, is it 320 some odd manholes? Did you guys inspect this, or is this in the right?
No, this was done by
This was
Wright
Wright
and Pierce.
Okay. Did they mention in any of them? Were they bricks? Were they precast? Did they mention the construction at all?
Yeah, the material is part of a standard manhole rehab inspection report, so it would have identified the material of actually the chimney, the walls, and the bench as well. So it does specify the material of everything in those reports, and that should also be in that master Excel spreadsheet. I don't remember off the top of my head generally if it leaned more towards brick manholes or not, but that's definitely information that's available.
Okay. Dave, do we have access to that? Dave McDonald, if you're on.
Yeah, Jack, you why don't you explain what we did with those? You there, Jack?
Yeah, I think everything that they're talking about here is exactly what we've discussed with Wright Pierce and to some extent with Weston and Sampson, which there has been some staining between the joints of the concrete precast. There has been, we did notice some areas on the in the pipe around the boots that were leaking. And we have noticed that some of the manhole covers were installed as watertight manholes, although the bolts are missing. So there's, there's water getting in there. And we're also been tortured by raising and lowering manholes, particularly on 2A, where that work was done very poorly. So it wouldn't surprise me that, as she said, that the water's getting into certainly the asphalt is not impervious, and through the bricks and into the manhole.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, to Mike's got a good question. I would suggest that we, that Barb email that manhole report out to all the commissioners, because most of the commissioners weren't here when that came in.
We have it, I believe.
We just said we have.
Mike has it. Maybe Mike doesn't know he has it.
I didn't mean to interject here, but I believe I'm looking at it. It's further down in the report. Is that correct? I see yellow highlighted, replace frame and
Yes.
cover recommendations. I see prices, TNT cost.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
directly from the Wright and Pierce report. So that, I don't remember which appendix that
Yeah, I think it's
is.
C.
There
Yep.
we go.
So we
Well-
have it in C. Yep.
Was that the
Well,
entire?
yeah, if we could bring that up, yeah.
The entire report. The entire report had a lot of tabs. I doubt they're all here.
Yeah, this was actually consolidated to fit a little bit better into the report, but Barb initially sent over the full spreadsheet of everything, so that would most
Yeah, that's
likely
what I
have
think.
more information.
Yeah, I think the commissioners should get the full spreadsheet so they can see the different tabs, because there's a lot of information there. It's good to pull this into this report. I appreciate that.
Let's finish up this presentation. Go ahead, guys.
Perfect. So
I just
that,
had
yeah.
one more thing to add. I know, sorry, Lauren, if you could go back
Oh,
up
yeah.
to the Wright Pierce tables. I think one of the questions was, what is the cost effectiveness of any remaining repairs? And that's table 2-3. So this is assuming the priority 1 and priority 2 categorized manholes have yet to be rehabbed. So we basically took a 20-year TNT cost-effective analysis based off of current rates. And you can see in the right-hand column, so anything above a 1 is worth repairing. So 20 years is just the general quote-unquote lifespan of rehabilitation. So that's why that number is generally used across the board for cost-effective analysis, and you can see that those are much higher than 1 and definitely worth the investment of removing the II. So I just wanted to touch on that was included, and you can see the II that's getting into the system in that attached spreadsheet as well, if you wanted to reference a certain street or a certain sub area. So, but I think that should round out that specific section.
Perfect.
That was very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yep. Yeah. So that covered, 2 and 4, comments 2 and 4.
Okay, does the commission have any questions on comments 2 and 4? I see none. Go ahead, Laura.
All right. So I know there's a lot to go through, but I think these next ones we can kind of refer back to what we already reviewed. So comment 5 was actually to append the Excel-based tool. So we did include that in the OneDrive link that we sent to Barb. I would, I would say maybe take a look at that and see, what it meets as needs. We know right now it can't be finalized since the actual format of how data will be received is currently in the works. So maybe we can kind of come back to that once more, the system is in place of how we'd be adding those flows to that Excel-based spreadsheet.
Okay.
So that's all I have on that one. And then we touched upon the DEP guidelines, so that's 2-1. So we added DEP guidelines to the report there. We clarified for 2-2 inflow, so the difference between inflow and infiltration. 2-3 update or a 20-year cost-effective analysis. So that's what Kelly just reviewed for 2-3. And then the smoke testing, house inspections, manhole data. So that we included in the appendices. So you'll see A through E. A is the 2011 Weston Sampson metering report. B is the 2011, oh wait, I think sorry, I wrote down the same thing twice on my notes, so that's not helpful. But
that's actually the fall. So there's
it's the fall.
2011
Okay.
spring and then the 2011 fall.
Thank you, Kelly. You've got this. And then Appendix C is the Wright Pierce manhole report. Appendix D is the 2017 Weston Sampson spring report. And then we also included, which is further down in the notes as Appendix E, our interim review meeting, just the PowerPoint presentation there. So those have been included. We went through the quarterly billing and the metering data trends that have been added. Again, not being able to provide exact II, but trends. And yeah, so the next comment on SCADA upgrades and benefits. What I'd like to do is move it now to our recommendations and just review with you, because that's the most, it's an important piece is now that you know the trends and what we found, what's next. So I'll scoot down to the recommendations and let's talk through, we can just walk through each recommendation and what we see as next steps for you. All right, so for pump station evaluation, I was going to kick it over to kind of Pete and Scott to talk through this one because it involves both some SCADA upgrade recommendations and then just overall, pump station evals. So.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren.
Yeah.
Pete, you can jump in if you have some input, but I was not involved back. Someone pointed out, I think Carl pointed out, or maybe a number of other commissioners, that there was a conversation had with, I believe it was Trina, who was with us prior to her departure, who came in and had a conversation with you a little bit about taking a look at your SCADA and your pump stations and put together a proposal to do an evaluation. I think at full circle, we came back to finding our way into this project with you folks, which has been a great opportunity to understand your challenges and the lack of clarity that you were able to piece together between the multiple consultants. And as we look at it, I mean, SCADA, what we've learned a bunch, I think, here is that the lack of SCADA in your system and the reliance on the pump station, resolution of pump station inconsistencies has really been around what's the pump doing, what is the outflow. Flow metering is non-existent for the most part in those pump stations. It's a mathematical process. SCADA would make a significant improvement to your ability to trend data, to see the deterioration or the functionality of the pumps, the wear on the pumps, and the operational efficiencies of the pumps or lack thereof and trending. What was proposed at that time and the email string that I saw was that I think the commission didn't see a value in it back then, and maybe now there's more value. I think it was about $12,000 in 2016 to do a assessment of those stations and look at SCADA capability, look at communications. You only have one PLC in the system, and I think it's sort of localized. Your security or your connectivity there is by phone line. Your alarming is by landline or leased landline out, dial out to cell phone, which is being a phased out communication mode for these type of systems. It's probably a little more in the current day dollars than 12,000, but I would definitely think that we could get into more detail about the actual benefits. It's a bit of a challenge, I think, in your mind, probably because you don't have an operational team. You had a subcontractor operating some of your stations, and so that probably is a little bit of a, you're not going to quickly see that value if you don't have someone on your team that knows what they're looking at. I would see that as maybe that's what the challenge was, and that may be a challenge going forward. But I think whether you have a contract operator or not, providing this data and having this information in real time, especially with the changes in the economics to your effluent going to each of the plants, or the pending changes in costs there, knowing exactly what you're processing, what's going through your system, and how to maximize that efficiency and clean those up is something that's really important from a dollars and cents perspective. So I think an investment well made would be to do an evaluation to see what that cost is. I can't tell you without doing that evaluation whether it's a $200,000 investment to get you up to where you want to be or where you should be, or it's a $500,000 investment. But I think just knowing what that looks like and how to incrementally incorporate that into future years of capital makes sense. It's probably, it's not 12,000, it might be 15 or 20, but I think, to understand and have a roadmap to getting this data clearer than it is, because one thing's sure here, the data is really fuzzy, and we've done, I think, a pretty good job. Our team has really done a good job of putting our nose into the data and really looking for the trending and looking for clarity around it. But I think it's not bulletproof, because really there's still a lot of gaps in it because of the math.
Let me just build a little bit more. One of the things that SCADA does offer is the concept of a volumetric transducer, which can actually measure the output of the flow in the wet well as the wet well rises and lowers each time the pumps turn on. And that will benefit to look at your II situation, because then if you can keep that tracked on a daily basis, that data can be used for future II work, instead of constantly doing your 10-year metering program. You can utilize that data on a daily basis. So that also helps and benefit a lot of the issues. And then you know exactly what areas to tackle a little bit better.
Right, Pete, and I think that's a good point. I think that there's a couple of different, those stations would be evaluated as part of this proposal that had been previously given to you in the 2016 timeframe, and like May of 2016. But there'd be each station would be evaluated to determine what the right what the right sensors and flow metering devices would be part of that recommendation. But you definitely have real-time flow data, and so the variable speed of your pumps and the things that are question marks in our calculation now wouldn't be question marks anymore. You'd know exactly what's coming out. I presume that would immediately rectify the question about negative pumping in that one station at a minimum.
Yeah, because I mean, with a PLC, if you had a PLC in each manual, you could figure out what the timing is that the pumps turn on and the pumps turn off. Is that basically what this system would do?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can,
Is there any-
with a brand new pump, with a brand new grinder type pump, what your output is, so if you're pumping down, let's just say raw numbers like 200 gallons, let's say it takes 2 minutes to pump down 200 gallons with a brand new pump, after 5 years, is it, does it gain 30 seconds? Does it gain a minute? And then you can tell also too, you can tell your maintenance of your pumps when you need to rebuild your pumps as well.
Exactly. It keeps an eye on the efficiency on your pumps. That's what it's a plus advantage on. So when you have to go in there and see what is going on and see if you're getting the true effect of the pump.
When you'd have alarming, so you'd know if you have ragging in one of your pumps. If you have two pumps and they're alternating, if you get one pump ragged up, you'd get an alarm. It would alternate to the other pump. Gives you the ability remotely to determine whether you need to go down there and service the station right away, or can it wait till tomorrow morning, that kind of thing as well. I mean, the bells and whistles could be determined as you go along, but it would make sense to start looking at where you can set a node up likely at the DPW. The initial upfront cost would likely be more for the initial setup, because you'd have a server, you'd have a node set up. And then communications is probably going to be the biggest thing. Do you have radio? You have to do a radio path study and figure out what the right, what the communication capabilities are, and do you need to have elevated antennas, or where's your polling master, or do you need a repeater? So that'd be part of that evaluation on the front end.
All right, so if we're hearing you correctly, SCADA is basically your number one recommendation on top of looking at the manhole problems, of course. I've got a question for Jack. Didn't this come up in conversation in recent meetings? Was there a negative about SCADA we needed to talk about? I don't recall.
I don't know about going to specifics, but I know that the commission, different commissioners discussed this over a 4-year period, which seems pretty exhaustive to me, and decided at the conclusion of that 4 or 5 years worth of meetings that it was not something that they were going to move forward on. I can tell you that. That was the timeline.
Mr. Jerry?
I think maybe it's an off topic or an off conversation that we can have at a different time, maybe next meeting. But with the amount of technology that's out today, with the PLCs, with the radio transmitters, with the VFDs, I mean, maybe this is an area where we got to spend money to kind of save money on the long run. I mean, I think it's something that we should probably all think about, and maybe have a topic on the next agenda for a meeting.
And that's one thing that I just want to say. I was involved with the first SCADA that we put in, and I want to just say nothing's off the table, because things have changed over 10 years ago when we did it. But I think we still stay focused on what we are. Let's finish up our report and finish up a couple other things on the agenda that's important to the commission, and then we will address SCADA. I don't know if it'll be the next meeting that we can get into it, depending on, as you can see from the agenda, we got some things coming up that we have to attack. But I agree with all you commissioners and the report. We should just take a look at everything that's on the table to try to stop what we're doing.
I guess the only comment I would have is I was involved and actually was the one who brought Woodard and Kern in to take a look at SCADA when they came up with the, the $12,000 number to do an assessment. And I think back then we sort of viewed the potential cost of installing SCADA as pretty significant. Now, technology's changed, things have changed. I'm not saying we should keep it off the table, but it's something for a discussion in another meeting.
Yeah, I agree. It may not be next week or next meeting or the meeting after, but I think it's something that we do need to kind of bring up to the table and discuss what we want to do. Especially, again, technology is crazy. I deal with it every day, and I can't imagine how much technology's changed in 2 years.
I do have a question for Woodward and Curran. I don't know who wants to answer this. On your final recommendations, you've seen the paperwork on all our pump stations. Some are massive, like on Leominster Road. Some are small. Are you recommending SCADA on every pump station we have, or every pump, or just the big ones?
Well, it would be, first step would have to be an evaluation of the SCADA. So we'd have to dive in and see what the needs are. So it'd be a smaller scale assessment. And then from there, there'd be the recommendations of what type of SCADA system and how extensive it would be.
I think, Dave, it's not a one size fits all. So to your question, you don't necessarily need to take every little pump station. If you had one neighborhood come on that has a small pump station that handles a very small number, and it's not a primary station that you would need to SCADA everything. The optimal scenario would be to have full operational control and of all of your assets. But it's not a necessity. We'd break it down by criticality so that we show you what's most important to implement and how to implement it in segments, if that's the way you do it, and what you could not implement that you could continue to operate in the way that you do today.
I would suggest, and on your report, your final report to us, if we can include a paragraph on that and your recommendations, so that when we do go out and look at it, I don't want to have a proposal for every pump station for SCADA. I'd rather do it strategically and do it right. So your recommendations on that would be important, I feel, in this report.
Okay. So like the approach, the recommendation as far as like the approach to the pump station eval and SCADA needs. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Keep on going, guys.
All right. And then the next recommendation is on the Inflow report, essentially stating, we recommend that the commission move forward with the report recommendations, as it will save money and address inflow that was noted as part of that evaluation completed.
Okay.
And then the next two, this is more focused on like DEP guidelines. So as part of the DEP guidelines, they recommend a metering program be completed every 10 years, just given the fact that in that amount of time, groundwater migrates. So where you had infiltration before, it could show up in different areas that weren't identified, 10 years ago. So just want to, make sure that's known, the commission's aware of it. And we did provide costs under the evaluations section of what a flow metering program would cost. So just something to keep on the table and be aware of, moving forward in this program. And as a final, so based on the trends we saw, we recommended some SSES follow-up activities that could be focused in those trended areas of where we still are seeing infiltration and inflow as issues, and listed out some quantities of flow isolation, CCTV inspection, manhole inspections, and then smoke testing in those areas. And that wraps it up.
Very good. First of all, as the chair, I just want to say you guys did a good job on this. And the next step from this is the final presentation. Is that correct?
We did not have a final presentation. It was going to just be a final report deliverable. So any comments from this presentation we will incorporate and then submit the final report. But there will still be some follow-up on that Excel tool, which we'll need to discuss once more knowns, because I think there's still a lot of unknowns with that Excel tool on the billing front.
Okay, to the commissioners, before I ask Lauren to take the controls back to Barb, do you have any questions on any of the forms that you saw? And we'll start with Mike.
No. I think the forms are good. I do, kind of look forward to trying to figure out what we can take care of some of our issues and try to be more cost effective and efficient.
Brett?
Yes. I guess my mind's been going to other possibilities that maybe they could recommend we look at. The likelihood of broken pipes in certain areas or high groundwater getting in at pipe joints as a possibility. Things that weren't mentioned or haven't been able to be assessed, ways to check that out. Overall suggestions that haven't been thought of, basically.
I can respond to that. My suggestion is to look at your trends and pick a pump station area and just go ahead and do the flow isolation. And the flow isolation gives you more of the infiltration measurements. And if anything hits that 4,000 gallons per day per inch mile, you can go ahead and proceed with the CCTV work, and then there's your assessment. So you can skip over the metering program. If you really want to save money, won't you tackle your top 3 areas that we identified from the pump station trends as an infiltration area, and just go ahead and do the flow isolation. That way you guys can really assess what's going on. You can actually see and get it CCTV'd and investigate, and then we can come back and provide recommendations, and we can go from there. That's one way of really saving money right up front.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Brett. Carl, you have anything?
No, I appreciate all the hard work and the cooperation working with the team through this. And I got to go and read all the new information that you put in here, but it looks like it's very good and addressed all the issues. So thank you very much.
Carl, I'm sure you're going to be digesting this book for a while. So, Mr. Reynolds.
Counting on that.
Yeah, no, Mr. Reynolds, do you have anything?
No additional comments. I think there's a lot of information here to digest, and we as a sewer commission need to take a look at it.
And thank you, John. Jack?
Just to thank them. It is a lot of information. It's a little tedious right now, but I think we have to wade through it.
Barb? You're muted, but I gotta unmute you. Lauren, can you unmute?
Oh,
There I go. I'm good.
okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just thank them for the work that has gone into this. I was talking with Jane earlier about the meter import, and hopefully, possibly, I've got my billing out. Get some sort of a test data to you so we can see at least what the report format is going to look like. So we're going to start it next week, and then hopefully I need to work with NDS and Munis to run some test program, and hopefully have something to you within a couple weeks.
Okay.
But I'll be in touch.
Personally, I just want to thank you guys from Woodward and Curran. You guys did a great job. It's good to know that if we have any questions in the future that we could call you and get more information or recommendations. Kyle, I want to thank you for working I know it's been tough with COVID on not only you, but the whole situation, especially with Woodward and Curran trying to get them information. But it's a good report, and I'm going to make a promise to all these commissioners that we will be using this as a guide going forward. Not next week, but over the next coming months, we will be sitting down going over each of these priorities. So in final, that's what I have to say. God bless you guys, and thank you very much. And I'm looking to see the final report so we can all sit back and look at it. Any other questions from anybody, from Woodward and Curran? Anyone Woodward and Curran have any comments?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Appreciate working with you.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for the
Appreciate it.
chance. Thanks for the opportunity to work with you guys, and we look forward to helping as you look to move forward with it.
Okay, I just want to thank Lauren and Scott and Kelly for all their work. Kelly, you're very good at the numbers. I was impressed with your presentation there.
Thank you. It's been a
said the
pleasure
same
working with you
thing.
guys.
Kelly, Lauren, before you sign off, will you just transfer host back
Yes, so,
to Dave or I? It doesn't matter.
okay. Oh goodness, you're gonna watch me struggle. How do you do this? Is
Just
it under more
click
or?
on, if you click on me, I think you can say make host.
Oh, okay.
Right click.
Yes, all right.
We'll send you a book of instructions and a recommendation.
Yeah, right.
There you
There we
go.
go.
Good,
All
thank
right. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
All right, thanks,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Hey, guys.
Brett. Okay, moving forward. That was very good. Kyle, thank you for helping put that together.
Well, appreciate the opportunity and the
Well,
confidence to let me do that.
I know you would. Okay, current business. RFP status. Go ahead, Barb.
No, the bids are in. We received 2 out of the, I think it was 6 that had signed out an RFP. I think some were consultants that are tasked with just looking up RFPs and advising their own customers. So we did have MP come back and Watermark out of Lowell. And everyone's been sent the bids and their pricings.
Okay. On that, we did receive the 2 bids, as Barbara was saying. I'm looking to, hold on one second. We have to get somebody in place by the 15th, obviously, so I'd like to make that done as soon as possible, which means we should try to place somebody in by September 1st, which means I'd like to have another meeting next week to just talk about the RFP and what company and how's it going to go. Does anyone have any questions about that? About having a meeting next Tuesday, and the meeting won't be long. Any,
No, I do agree, and I think it's obviously very important.
Okay, there's some direction, and Bob, you want to give the commission some direction that we got today, or from
As
Heather,
far as what? I'm sorry.
as far as how we're going to do this?
I just know interviews were not required, but definitely checking references would be part of the process. I don't remember what else, Dave. Help me out. I don't.
So the commission got all the offers or the bids, is that correct? Everybody saw those? The 2 companies, okay. So what I want you to do is look at them for the next 4 or 5 days. And then next week we'll hash it out and talk about it and make our recommendation on who to hire. In the meantime, Bob, I think you got to talk to Heather. Who does the reference checks? Would that be you, or would that be Heather, assistant town manager? I don't know who would want to do the reference checks.
I don't know. Jack, would you have experience in this?
Well, I don't think we'd have Heather do it. And she's away this week too, so as a practical sense. I could ask Julie to take some of that on. Barb could, I could do some.
I don't think there's a lot of reference checks on these guys, but I think, Jack, I like your idea about getting Julie involved as the assistant town manager.
Sure.
Let me know if you want, but normally that would come from you guys as far as the reference checks.
Yeah.
Let us know. But we want to award the bid by 9/1, or we need to extend it. So that's why I like to have a meeting on 9/1 and see what we got.
All right. My turn to say I won't be there because it's my anniversary. So
Anniversary. I mean, we could, what's 9/1? Is that Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Is that Labor Day? Or no,
Labor Day is the 7th this year.
7th, okay.
You just scared me there. No, we could have a meeting on the 2nd, September 2nd if you want.
They said we needed to award it by the 1st. Oh, the 15th. Okay.
Award it, but
Well, the award, yeah, the RFP does state that the award would be made for the 1st. We can extend it. So Oh, I think all we have to do is advise the two bidders if you want to extend it. Correct, Jack?
Yeah, I'm just looking at something. We could have a meeting, and again, this won't take a long meeting. We could do one, the earliest would be Friday. Is that right, Bob? Looking at my calendar, you got to give it 3 days, or did we miss that?
It has to be posted 48 hours, so tomorrow, if you post, I guess, yes.
Can you guys make a quick call on Friday? We don't have to do it at 5. You can do it at 4. You can do it at 5.
Well, we have to have time to check references, Dave, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's already Tuesday. So why don't we just take your foot off the gas there and try not to rush it so much. If we have to extend it a week and give the commission time to digest it and discuss it, go over, what we found on the references, find these people to give references. I think Friday's way too soon.
Who's going to give the extension to the company? Is that going to be you, or is that going to be Heather, who's on vacation this week?
It would be up to, I would think, the commission to vote to extend. Right, Jack?
I believe so.
Okay, are we asking for a formal vote then, Barb? And we request to extend their contract until the
Not extend the contract, but extend the award date out to whatever it would be. If you want to meet on the 2nd, we could change the award date to the 3rd, or depends on what we find. If we can't get, because this is the end of summer vacations or whatever, if we aren't able to reach references, it could be pushed out. So we could push it out to September.
So Jack, I have a question
Is our
for Jack.
next meeting.
Yeah, go ahead.
The company we're currently using, are they willing to continue until, if we extend this?
Yes, we did get.
Okay.
I expect they would be.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going through a couple of emails to make sure we're all on the same page. I don't have a problem in extending the contract, but I'm going by what was sent out on the RFP, what is said on that.
Right.
It's not unusual for, in any municipal contract to postpone or extend out the award date.
Okay. So if we extend it out to the 15th, from what I'm seeing, the procurement officer needs time to set up the contracts and the bonds and all that. So I have no problem extending the contract out to the 15th, but we should make our decisions based on that sometime next week. Everybody agree with that? When I'm looking at what we got here.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do next Tuesday. And if we extend the contract out until the 15th, by the end of next week, we should make a decision on who we're going to hire. Which could
is there an expectation that they're going to begin the work on the 15th?
Well, if you have a contract and it expires on the 15th, what would you say? So we extending it out? I mean, are we extending the contract out, or are we extending out the work levels? And that's what I just don't know.
Well, there's 3 things. So we extended out the work, the contract, to the award date. And does the award date coincide with the beginning of the work?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what we got to look at.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just procedurally, I'm not that familiar, maybe Jack. When we say award date, the award date that's in the, the RFP, is that the date we notify them that they've been selected, but then you work on the details of the contract and all the hard work that Heather has to do? That's usually the way I thought it worked. Is you would select the supplier, you would notify them that they've been selected, and then the details of the contract and all of those things can work at that point.
No, that's what we're saying. You're exactly right. So if we extend out the date to the 15th for the RFP, when does a new company start? I don't have that information.
Well, it wouldn't be the 15th. That much would be short.
Right.
Yeah.
I would recommend giving them 2 weeks to prepare.
Well,
it's not just them. It's also what Carl mentioned, that there's a contract that has to be written and consummated by both parties, and a start date. which is different, in my understanding, from the award date.
Why are we even talking about this? Barb, we don't need you there. We can still do a meeting without Barbara and make the decision. If I have to, we can either get Heather on the call or Julie. I say let's do it next Tuesday and get it done, meet the deadlines that's on the RFP.
Sure.
I mean,
Good with that.
that's the right way to do it. I mean, I don't want to ask extensions. I definitely don't want to break any kind of deals we have legality, which I don't think we have. But why don't we do that? Why don't we plan on meeting next week? Barbara, you happy anniversary. Hope you enjoy it. And we'll talk to Julie or Heather to be on the call. Like I said, it shouldn't take that long to pick a person, especially if you as a commission look at pros and cons. And if you had any questions, filter them through Barbara about the information that you received. And I'm sure everybody looked at them already. Is that correct? At least scanned through them.
Yes, I have.
So if you did all that, let's plan on a meeting next Tuesday. So let's do a motion. Let's do a vote on that. Anybody have a motion to extend this to next Tuesday?
Well, is that an extension, Dave, or isn't that the date?
That's the date.
I don't think the Tuesday is an extension, is it?
No.
And I don't think you have to have a vote to meet.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tuesday is the first. Okay, sorry. I thought it was Wednesday. All right. So we'll have a meeting next Tuesday. And Barbara, if you can send an email over to Heather and stating that, we'll do it at 5 o'clock. And there's nothing on the agenda but the RFP.
Okay, so let's just make sure we'll have a quorum there. Can everyone meet?
That's what the next question is going to ask.
All right.
Make us. Carl, can you make it?
Yes.
Brett, can you make it?
I'll make it.
John, can you make it?
Yes.
Jack, can you make it?
Well, I don't have a vote, but I'll make it. Yeah.
Well, your opinion is very powerful to us, so it'd be nice if you were there.
Sure.
So
Okay, so next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, Barb, you can send a notice out and put it up on the agenda anyways for next.
Okay. Mike, can you attend?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Good, guys. Thank you very much for all that. Now, Barbara, is there any reason why, if anyone had any questions about these two things, they can't contact you or the commission? And
Is it what? What's the question?
if they have a question about the RFP, because I know two of you guys probably aren't sure, so they may call you and procedurally wise just ask you about the RFP.
Yep, I'm gonna be out Thursday, Friday. I'm sorry.
You got a long anniversary, huh? How many years are you married?
Well, no, this was separate, but I'll be back
Okay.
for my anniversary. So, just so
But,
you know, but my cell phone's always on.
okay. By the way, Jack, happy anniversary. I forgot to say happy anniversary to you.
Thanks.
Okay, next one's minutes. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes for 8/11,
8/11/20.
8/11/20. Looking for a motion.
So motioned.
Looking for a,
I will
Second.
second that emotion.
looking for a second.
Emotion.
Any discussion?
You get the idea.
I know. Any discussion? All in favor? Mike,
Aye.
Carl,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
for myself. Business and management reports. Go ahead, Barb.
All right, and as you know, the billing was completed and finally out from under us after this. It was a long go. There were a lot of changes with the irrigation meters going on. Units going up and down. It was lots of fun. So it is out, which is good news. And Jane and I have already talked about timing to try to get together and start the meter ID changeover. So we're hopeful, starting next week with that. I had 3 invoices. I had the Fitchburg monthly one for $14,481. And I have Lemonster for $77,348. Both of those figures are based on figures I had provided them. Lemonster's number is based on the old methodology. I had sent a couple emails to Roger for input, and I have not heard back. So the office person at Lemonster and I have just swapped the information that we normally do, and I've received the invoice, like I said, for 77,348.67 based on old methodology. And then I have received another Woodard and Curran invoice for 2,740, leaving exactly 2,740 on the contract. And I know there was discussion about whether you would pay, up to a certain amount until we had a final report, but I'm bringing it to you. Do you want to pay and leave that remaining 2,007, or would you rather hold on to the 4,014?
I'm going to look for you for a recommendation.
I was pretty happy with what they did in their responsiveness, so I expect the final report to be fine. But I do think we should draw a line now and we paid invoice, and I would recommend that we not pay any more until the pump station algorithm is in place.
You said you are approving to pay this one?
I recommend we pay this one and then not pay any more until we receive the algorithm and the training that goes along with it.
All right. So are all three all right with you if I just sign basically the initial that it was okayed and reviewed?
It's okay with me. Anybody from the board? Anyone has any objections? Besides
No.
Nope.
No.
Then you're all set there, Bob.
Okay. The irrigation or deduct meter program, and I think I did already talk to you about that. We did have 8 voluntarily withdraw. I was thinking some of those calls at the beginning of the meeting were possibly residents. I had talked with one resident earlier about his issues with the irrigation policy, but no one ever did speak up. But anyway, 12 did not pay the fee, 8 withdrew, and I'm not expecting any more necessarily. I think we're good with the 42 at this point, but we'll see. When they receive their invoices without the credit, they may come a-calling. And that's it. That's all on my list. I had communication that the department heads were all sent our agendas and minutes. So I've not had any feedback.
Okay. Any members' information for future agendas or future meetings?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a couple. One, is not news to anyone, is the maintenance plan. I think now that we've got the I kind of behind us, we can now dig into the maintenance plan and get that wrapped up for the Wright Pierce contract. So I think that should be fairly high priority. There was a mention at the meeting I missed about a new legal policy. I don't know what that's all about, but that if there is such a thing, that probably should be on the agenda. And then the one that came up tonight, which is the SCADA. Again, it doesn't have to be next meeting, but it certainly needs that discussion that we talked about. And I would say, because I was also there when that, when we basically said, nah, we're going to hold off on SCADA. We really didn't, at least I was not aware, and there was no discussion over the number of areas that SCADA could help us. At that time, we were mostly looking at, can it reduce the, call outs and, can we get more, control offline, but that's probably a small piece of the payback and value. So those are my 3 agenda items: SCADA, maintenance plan, priority 1, and then if there's a legal policy, I don't know what that's about.
Legal policy is real simple. That'll be put on the next official agenda for the commission, not next week.
Sure.
And as far as the maintenance plan, since you watched the tape, I think you heard us say that that is going to be part of our project once we complete all the priorities, which is what we're doing right now. And as far as the last one, the SCADA, that's up for more information. I'll be interested to see what Woodard and Curran recommends. So, but yeah, we're working on all 3 of those. Anybody else? Okay. As far as upcoming meetings, now we have one for September 1st at 5 o'clock. After that is September 8th, and then September 29th. Looking for any public comment. Anybody has any public comment, Barb? Anybody out there?
Nope.
I don't see none. Any public comment from the board? I see none. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So motioned.
Second.
I second.
So emotional. John.
John, I'm glad you made it back. I know we kept losing you.
Yeah, I have to use my newer computer next time.
All right.
I made it all the way through a conservation commission without meeting without dropping out.
You know what? I'm having computer problems here on the lake, and it was really windy out there a little while ago, so that might have to do it, but it's died down now. Okay, roll call vote. Mike? On adjourning.
Yes.
Carl?
Aye.
Aye.
Pretty curtains behind you too, by the way. John?
Aye.
And I for myself. Bob, have a great anniversary.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, guys. And everyone be good out there.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Night.
See you next week. Thanks, Jack.
Bye, guys.